What if you could totally transform your classroom with just one simple shift? Well, in this explainer, we're going to open up a teacher's toolkit that's focused on what might be the single most crucial element of all, the teacher-student relationship. Research shows time and time again that the foundation of a truly great classroom isn't really the curriculum, it's connection. When your students feel welcome and accepted and genuinely valued, that's when they're actually ready to learn. So, what's one of the biggest hurdles to building that connection? It's something researchers call the I them mentality. It's that subtle feeling of opposition, the teacher versus the students. And it's a huge source of classroom disruptions. But the good news? The solution is actually pretty simple, intentionally getting to know your students as people. Okay, so how do we actually close that gap? How do we shift from that I-them feeling to a collaborative we atmosphere where everybody feels like they're on the same team? Let's dive in. Look, this isn't about some grand, complicated gesture. It's about using what's already there. By simply taking a little time to understand who our students are, what they love, what their families are like, what they dream about, we build that bedrock of trust and community. So let's open up this toolkit and take a look at some diagnostic tools. Think of these as strategies designed to gather all that essential information right from the very start of the school year. These are your go-to strategies for getting to know the real people in your classroom. We're talking about gathering info on everything, from their academic interests to their hobbies, their family life, and even what they like to do on the weekends. Just think about the power of a question like this on a student survey. It goes so far beyond what's your favorite subject. It really gets to the heart of a student's dreams, their ambitions, and yeah, even their fears. This is where that real connection starts. Now, what's so interesting here is how this completely reframes the whole idea of a student conference. See, it's not a one-way street where you just read off a report card. It becomes a two-way conversation, a real collaborative meeting where the student actually has a voice and some agency in their own learning. Of course, this toolkit isn't just for inside the classroom walls. It's also about building a super important alliance with the other key players in a student's life, their parents and guardians. This quote right here, it's a total game changer. That one little linguistic shift from you to we, it transforms the entire dynamic of a parent-teacher conference. It stops being about blame and starts being about partnership, with everyone focused on helping the student succeed. And notice the parallels here to the student conference we just talked about. The structure is almost identical. You start with something positive, you listen, you ask questions, and you work together. The goal is always the same. Build a strong, supportive team around that learner. Okay, so we've laid the foundation, but how do we maintain these connections every single day? This next part of the toolkit is all about quick, simple strategies you can use to keep strengthening those bonds. This is a fantastic one. It's inspired by that famous, maybe not totally true story about Ernest Hemingway. You just ask students to tell their life story in, you guessed it, 6 words. It's a really low-stakes writing exercise that can reveal a surprising amount about a student's personality. A simple 6-word story like this one tells you so much, right? It's this creative and super efficient snapshot into a student's world, their attitude, maybe even their sense of humor. And this is another brilliant one. It's a quick strategy called lineups, and it shows just how versatile these tools can be. You can start with a fun icebreaker question, and then you can pivot to a question that helps you quickly figure out learning preferences for the whole class. It's community building and data collection all in one simple activity. All right, now we get to what I think is the most powerful part of this whole toolkit. The absolute best strategies don't even feel like extra work. Why? Because they're woven directly into the academic content itself, which makes learning so much more personal and relevant. This is such a cool idea. Imagine you're teaching about the solar system. You could ask students to compare their family members to the different planets. All of a sudden, they're not just memorizing facts about moons and orbits, they're connecting these complex scientific ideas to their own lives. That deepens understanding for everyone. And it doesn't just stop with metaphors. All of these tools really empower students by linking the curriculum to their own personal identity. And when learning becomes that relevant, it's not only more memorable, it actually strengthens that bond between the teacher and the student. Okay, so you've put some of these tools to use, but how do you actually know if it's making a difference? Well, the final part of our toolkit is all about seeing the impact of these strategies in your classroom. The proof isn't going to be on a test score. It's in the whole atmosphere of the room, and most importantly, it's in what the students themselves say. When they feel seen, when they feel known, and when they feel valued, the entire dynamic of the classroom just changes for the better. So, as we wrap this up, the challenge is pretty simple. What's one small thing from this toolkit that you can try tomorrow? It doesn't have to be some big, complex new system, because building relationships, just like learning, always starts with a single intentional step.